Okay, 2.1 is a fairly short section. It's just focused around two formulas that involve points on a graph. And so the first formula is the distance formula. It seems a little bit daunting the first time you see it, but essentially it's if you have 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, you can find the distance between these 2 points by using this formula. You subtract the x values, square them, you add those to the difference of the y values squared, and then you square root the whole thing. And again, it does seem daunting, but if you research a little bit online or maybe even draw a picture, this is built off of a very familiar formula to a lot of people. It is the Pythagorean theorem. It's just, in this case, our c squared would be d, and we just square root both sides from there. To find the distance between 2 points, it's a good idea to label the points so that when you're using the formula, you know where to place them. So you could put an x1 over -4, a y1 over 5, an x2 over 3, a y2 over 2, and then just make sure you put them in the correct spots. And so if you do that, that's what the distance formula becomes on the bottom left. And then you just simplify. So 3 minus -4 gets me 7. 7 squared is 9. 2 minus 5 gets you -3. If you square -3, you get a +9. Add those together and you get the square root of 58. Now in this class, we don't really use calculators very often unless I explicitly say, oh, okay, we're doing Desmos today. It's fine to use a calculator. So if this question showed up on the test or on the worksheet or on a discussion, you could just leave it at this and that would be the correct answer. Just for a sense of context, this is the distance between the 2 points is 7.62. That's what the square root of 58 is if you throw it in a calculator. Now, if it is a nice square root, like let's say that you go through this process, you find d is equal to the square root of 36. Well, the square root of 36 is 6, so that would be the distance between the 2 points. Something to watch for when you are doing these distance formula problems is that you shouldn't have a negative under the square root. Since you're squaring both terms, they should be positive. So watch for that. If you're ever kind of subtracting at some point, or if you end up with a negative under the square root, go back and make sure you are squaring things properly. Now, the midpoint formula, it again seems a little bit daunting the first time you see it, but to tie it to something that we do know, it's actually an average formula. So that's exactly what you're doing when you're finding the midpoint between 2 points. Is you add the 2 x values, divide by 2, you add the 2 y values, divide by 2, and that gets you your midpoint, which you have 2 values, sum divided by 2, that gets you the average in general. Okay, so, it says find the distance. It should say find the midpoint between the 2 points. It's a typo. So we're going to find the midpoint between these 2 points. As I said, we have x. We're going to add the 2 x values together, -5 plus 3. That gets us -2. I will divide by 2. I get -1. Y, for the y point, I'm going to add the 2 y's together. 5 plus 1 gets me 6. Divided by 2 gets me 3. Now, that is what x is on my midpoint. That is what y is on my midpoint, but that is not my answer. My answer needs to be a point. So I have to do that last step of writing it as an ordered pair. -1, 3 is my final answer.